Welcome along for one final time this weekend for the Woods Food Service Boxster Cup. Of course, it was a thrilling race earlier on in the day, and once again, I'm sure we'll be dealt with yet another one as the conditions slightly different than what we had earlier. It is ever so slightly drier, but it's still going to be tricky for these drivers to navigate the circuit. I'm sure we're in for a thrilling run in the championship, as we have done before. And again, I think they'll be given an extra lap as well, just to make sure that the tyres and cars are on the cars are, everyone's feeling it. Basically, all the tyres are up to temperature, and everyone's comfortable with the conditions. It was an excellent victory though for Ryan Charters earlier on in the race to close down a little bit on Wayne Gregory in the championship. Of course, Perry Darling was the driver who took third position, and all of them separated by not very much across the line. You can see there as they crest at Coppice that the conditions are much clearer than what they were dealing with earlier on in the afternoon, and I'm sure the drivers will be fairly thankful of that. You don't want to have too bad conditioned races throughout the weekend. That said, it is still going to be fairly tricky. Of course, based on all of that, it would be Ryan Charters starting for pole position. We'll roll for that once we get onto the second of the warm-up laps. Wayne Gregory will be in second position, and the qualifying time, they were separated by very, very little. When it came to the pace that separated them, literally hundredths of a second between Ryan Charters and Wayne Gregory. It's an excellent opportunity though for Wayne Gregory to try and take over the race lead and be victorious. Was running down in third position before there was an issue for Scott Evans in the previous race. He had the previous pole. Evans back into fourth position in the 44. And obviously Evans had a retirement from the race, unfortunately, but alas, that did promote Wayne Gregory up into the spot. I don't believe, by the way, I think this is the formation that works, because all the marshals are ready on the grid to pick up these drivers, so I think they are going to come straight into grid. Let's talk through the grid then. Ryan Charters will be starting from the pole position alongside Wayne Gregory in second place. Then it'll be Mike Thompson and Scott Evans. Perry Darling will be starting from fifth position, and Darren King from sixth. Seventh place will be Vikram Sudera, and Sarah Thompson will be starting from eighth place. Faye Noble Evans, who was great pace in the previous race, they were in ninth position, with Mike Kurtler taking 10th position. Anthony Levi and Graham Hurd will be taking 11th and 12th. 13th place was Barrington Darcy, who had some great pace the previous one, gained an awful lot of positions, then lost them, then gained them again. William Kurtler will be starting from 14th. Scott Adams, Charlie Dye, Tom Hale, Eric Bridges, then Stuart Warner, Martin Mason, Ben Grucock, Nick Lawrence, Craig Horvath, David Hussey and Sarah Woods. There we go, we've caught our breath, because it's time to go racing. Wow, that was a quick one. I will say there is a car missing on this grid, and I did wonder if I didn't see them on the formation app. Scott Evans, who was originally slated to start from fourth position, is not on the grid. So whatever gremlin hit them in the previous race is why there is a space on the right-hand side of the grid open in that second row. So obviously missing that one car means that we're down to 24. Doesn't mean that anyone moves up the order. It's just, it is what it is. That is just one car missing. Going to be a tight battle, though, between the top two. It's the first and second in the championship. On the left-hand side, that red car, that is the number 11 of Ryan Charters. The right-hand side, it'll be the 53 of Wayne Gregory. And of course, behind them, it's a completely clear row for the number 6 of Mike Thompson. Does mean that the number 17 of Darren King's got plenty of space to work in, obviously with that empty slot on the left-hand side. So it could be quite handy as we get ready to go racing. Lights are on, and we'll be racing down to the first corner now. Great start from second place on the grid. An excellent run from Wayne Gregory, who's dragged himself past, potentially, Ryan Charters. The second phase of the start just wasn't very good. Maybe missed a gear and all that, because Wayne Gregory had by far the best start down to the first corner. Has now settled for third position, because Ryan Charters has worked his way straight back through into the race lead. Out wide, a couple of them go, but none towards the gravel trap. So thankfully, they're all out of that one, as we obviously saw some issues in the first race with some drivers heading towards the gravel trap, one of those being Mike Thompson, who's now dropped down to just fourth position, but it will, of course, be our race leader. Oh, big slide at the bottom of the hill as they're all trying to scramble for grip and find their way past, but that was a little bit too much of a push on the brakes, a bit of a locking maybe of the rears race leader, though, it would not be the number 11 of Ryan Charters. I don't know where Ryan Charters has gone. It is the 81 of Percy Darling. There is the 11 going through the red car. Ryan Charters has dropped right the way back at T1. So clearly had a bit of a slow exit. And Perry Darling, who's come from 5th position up to the race lead as they head their way back out through Coppice. Big slide at the crest at Coppice for a couple of the drivers, as they're all trying to find out where the grip is. They've only had a lap or so to really put the heat into the tyres. There is Ryan Charters in that red and black car, dropping right the way back. Wayne Gregory did have a great start. There is a slide and there is a spin. Oh, that is such a shame for the number 90 of Sarah Thompson. Going to stick it in reverse. Got to be careful, though, with where you're rejoining the race circuit. Sticks a full turn of lock-in, as there comes the move for the race lead. That's the number 11 getting past the 17, the 11 of Ryan Charters, the 17 of Darren King. As they head their way up, you've got Mike Thompson also in tow in that 6 car as well. It's Wayne Gregory in 2nd position. The race leader, though, the 81 of Perry Darling, as they head their way back out onto the start-finish straight. 21 minutes left to go. So it will just be a handful of laps. I think about 11 laps from this point for them to deal with and settle with over the run of the race. Look at all this, though. Where do we even start? Graham Hurd, who made it a big send in the previous race down the inside of one of the drivers, which was Barrington Darcy in the previous race, was making yet another big send, going down to the final corner as they head down into the first turn. That on the inside, the black and pink car of Faye Noble Evans, who was trying to work their way back into the mix. But yeah, it's not an easy run for any of this, but going 2 to 3 wide throughout pretty much the entirety of that pack. The number 11, though, the driver that was starting this one from pole position, dropping back down the order, that red and black car. At the moment, Ryan Charters is trying to attack the rear end of Wayne Gregory, the top 2 in the championship, but they're all having to settle behind Perry Darling at the moment, who is the race leader as they head through McLean's. Wayne Gregory, desperate for that race victory that he saw slipped through his fingers in the previous race, courtesy of the speed and pace and consistency of Ryan Charters on the way to that victory. Alas, they head down the back stretch now. Charters probably frustrated with how this race has started. Didn't have a great start, realistically, the race. Then had a good second phase and just dropped back completely on the exit of turn 1. Wayne Gregory with the inside run, though, as they come through Fogarty side by side down towards the penultimate corner at Melbourne. And it will be Wayne Gregory going for the race lead. Gregory with the inside line, Darling to the outside, going to go a little bit too deep on the brakes, going to maybe go for the cutback and go on the up and under, but can't do it because the 11 is there. And so it will be held at the moment. Ryan Charters can't find their way into the mix. The outside run as well going to come in as the 17 of King throwing their way into the mix. Still, somehow, Darling hangs on to the race lead as Wayne Gregory could not quite do it. Darren King also can't do it around the outside of the final corner, but it is definitely 4 for the race lead as they head their way back onto the start-finish straight. An excellent opening couple of laps as they head their way down towards turn 1. It is still Darling leading from Gregory, from Charters, then from King, then from Thompson, and then from Sudera. But it is King with the fastest lap of the race. The 4th car in shot, the 4th car in this train, grabbing that fastest lap. Does that mean they're going to be able to work their way through the order? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Mike Thompson might have something to say about that. Sat 5th in line at the moment. Tighter line coming into the old hairpin from Perry Darling. And it could mean that Wayne Gregory is going to get a better run up the hill towards the Schwantz curve. It's exactly what's happened. The 53 of Wayne Gregory going on the attack, hunting down that of Perry Darling. Lights on, lights blazing. No flashing at the moment, though, so at least there's not any of that. But still, filling the mirrors. And the best way to drive in this scenario is to ignore the car behind, do what you're doing, focus on the road ahead. I'm sure Perry Darling is well aware of that. Is a gap of just half a second. The top 5, though, separated by 2 across the line. It certainly seems like it's less than that at certain points. As once again, Darren King looks to the inside of Charters. Can't make that one stick, though. Is it a better run this time again from Gregory? Certainly is. Is he going to get covered off this time by the 81 of Perry Darling? Seems like that car's got some decent straight line speed. It seems to really attack that second half of the straight nicely. Deep on the brakes going into the Melbourne hairpin. But it means that outside run, you're going to get a decent amount of traction coming out through, if you're taking that wider line through the final turn. And so it will be The race lead held from Perry Darling into the final corner. It's still Darling from Gregory, from Charters, from King, from Thompson, the top five. Then behind that, of course, you've got that distinctive purple, white and orange car of the 66 that belongs to Vikram Sudera. There's a look to the inside from Wayne Gregory. More in defence, though, of the car behind of Charters. Still trying to keep them at bay. Mike Thompson sets the fastest lap of the race over the previous rotation of the circuit. This is back, though, down the order. The 68 of Mason getting the move done on the inside of Warner. This is for 15th position. Actually, might be 14th position because Faye Noble Evans has actually dropped back to 16th and all that. Here comes a look to the inside, the top two in the championship, having a fight down into the old hairpin. That's absolutely fantastic from Charter to try and send that one there. It's going to allow Perry Darling to clear out a massive lead, though, as that big send to the inside in the old hairpin. Wayne Gregory's able to hang on. Coming through and all that is Darren King to take over third position, to sneak it past as they head up the crest at McLean's. That is absolutely fantastic, and that move is now complete. So Charter's got aggressive, and it's actually backfired massively as he's the one that's dropped down now to fourth position. Mike Thompson can't find a way through, and it is going to be a much larger lead now. They lost a couple of tenths in the first sector. They probably lost a second in that second sector, and has allowed Perry Darling to check out into the distance. There comes a look to the inside. Mike Thompson trying to get past the championship, second place in the championship with a big look down in the fog of the S. Can't do that. Space was given from the 11 though, and Charters, who's in fourth position now, almost was dropped right the way down the order after a little bit of contact. Thompson with the fastest lap of the race, knocking at the door of throwing themselves back into the mix. What it's done is it's allowed Vikram Sudera to rejoin this fight. And to be fair, Mike Kirtler has also rejoined. It is becoming one big train for the race lead. We'll get the updated gaps once they've crossed the line. And we've only done 7 minutes of this race. 8 minutes, I can count. 15 still left to go. Across the line they're going to go. It's still going to be Perry Darling leading the race by 1.6 seconds now, as Darling sets the fastest lap of the race. From Wayne Gregory, from Darren King, of course then from Ryan Charters, who's still in the fourth position. Then Mike Thompson, Vikram Sudera. Of course, behind that is the 72 of Mike Cutler. And then it's still a great drive for Barrington Darcy again, up to 8th position. Ben Grucock up to 9th from the start of the race. The top 10 rounded out by Anthony Levi. This is further behind all of that, though, of course. We saw the 90 of Sarah Thompson go for a spin earlier on in the race. Has already worked their way up a fair few positions in this one, and now finds himself in 19th position, just getting past Horvath and Bridges, who, of course, Bridges retired from the previous race. This is looking at Faye Noble Evans with a look to the inside from Hurd, who we know could get quite aggressive when it comes to those moves. The 99 of Graham Hurd with that big move in the previous race. And Faye Noble Evans, who looked quite strong in the previous race, to be perfectly honest, ended up finishing in fourth position. This will be very disappointing for them, as running right the way down the order, maybe not feeling these conditions quite as well as they were feeling the wet conditions earlier on in the weekend. Back to the fight though for sixth position, if I'm not mistaken, as we'll see Sidera working their way through. You've got Mike Kirtler, you've got Darcy. Here comes the move, and it will be Barrington Darcy coming down the inside. Could it be three wide as well? And we'll see Ben Grucock rejoining this fight as well. Barrington Darcy in a little bit too deep. Ben Grucock with a big send to the inside. The 86 will work its way through, and Grucock now up into 8th position themselves. So a bit of a drop down the order from Mike Kirtler, not having the pace, still leaving it down the inside of Ben Grucock, heading down to the final corner. And it will be the 86 of Grucock to hang on at the moment to 8th position. Back out onto the start-finish straight. And again, it is still extremely tight. They have been closing their way a little bit back in on our race leader, although actually, as I look at the live timing, I'm going to correct myself immediately. Darling pulled out another 4 tenths on the previous lap. So it was a 1 minute 55.3 for the 81 at the front of the field, pulling out from Wayne Gregory, who looks to come second place in both the races this weekend. Still too much time, though, in the race to get too far ahead of ourselves on that one. Still plenty of time, as you can see Barrington Darcy closing right the way back in on Vikram Sidera. I think it was Barrington Darcy who had the fastest lap in the previous race as well, showing the pace of that car. Indeed, let me just double check that one. It was indeed Barrington Darcy who had the fastest lap of the race. So clearly showing that car has some incredible speed. and just needs to dig deep and find it in this one. They were running 2-minute ones in the previous race. We're presently running 1:55, so we're about 4, 5, 6 seconds a lap faster than in the previous race. This shows how much better the conditions are in this one, as Darren King sets the fastest first sector of the race. This is a bit further down the order, though. Of course, back to where Sarah Thompson is. Has already cleared, I think, Noble Evans. There is Faye Noble Evans behind. So Sarah Thompson, next target for them, of course, is Charlie Dye in the number 96, and that silver, grey, however you want to classify it, the silver Boxster at the top of the hill might be under a fair amount of pressure, might be dropped back behind the number 90 of Sarah Thompson as she's finding the pace of the car to the inside, going up towards McLean's, and that'll be another position ticked off. Oof, not quite as easily this time, as Charlie Dye hangs on to that one for now. Next one, of course, past that is Warner, then Mason. How many more can Thompson gain on a recovery drive up the order? 2.3 seconds, the gap for the race lead has gone out even further. Not quite as fast as lap, though, on the previous one, and in fact has been closed in ever so slightly by the likes of Thompson and Sudera behind. So those gaps are coming down towards the front. 11 minutes, though, left to go in the race. Should be 6, might be 7 laps from this point, actually. There goes the outside there. Yeah, might be 7 laps. We'll have to wait and see. I'll run my maths and try and figure it out. But, you know, it's hard to brain, isn't it? There is your race leader. An excellent drive at the moment from Darling. 2.3, 2.4 seconds clear of Wayne Gregory. Then King, then Charters, then Thompson, then Sudera, then Darcy. And the reason why I focus on Darcy is because I know that car is rapid. You can see the side-by-side in the background. Vikram Sudera with the inside line as Barrington Darcy was trying to get to the outside. Let's see in the background whether they've actually been able to pop their way through. Where is Barrington Darcy? Has Barrington Darcy been able to sneak their way past? And will they be up into 6th position? We watched the group with the championship leaders work their way through the Fogarty S. And there comes the look to the inside. The number 11 defending just a touch there. Charters keeping Thompson at bay. But more importantly, sends one down the inside of Darren King. So up now into 3rd position goes Charters. That'll be an important move. Sees the main championship rival directly ahead. Does the number 11, as Wayne Gregory is going to be feeling that championship pressure. Big look to the inside from Darren King, but cannot find any way past the driver that sits now in 3rd place, the driver that's just passed. Let's stare in the background, though, and see who's going to come through the final corner in 6th place. Well, they're still side by side, so that's a good sign. Vikram Sudera and Darcy will remain side by side as there comes a look to the inside and a move coming in from the number 6 of Thompson. Great move down into turn 1. But again, all the racing, there's racing up and down the order. The only place where there's not really racing is at the race lead. As Charters, by the way, on the previous lap, importantly, whilst making that move, set the fastest lap of the race at 1:54.7. So clearly has plenty of pace behind the wheel. That was 0.6 of a second faster than that race leader, 0.7 of a second faster than Wayne Gregory. As we look back, I think there might have been some issue down in turn 1 because Vikram Sudera in that white, purple and orange car has actually dropped back a few more positions. Was battling with Barrington Darcy for 6th position, and Barrington Darcy is in 6th position now. And you can see there that there is one car that's definitely not. It's dropped back now to 9th place as Ben Grucock and Mike Kurtler have also been able to work their way through Vikram Sudera. So maybe there's been a little bit of drama down in the first corner, which is exactly what we're getting back here as the contingent cross the line. There goes the 99 of Hurd. There's Horvath. There is Noble Evans. Look to the inside. You've got Bridges. You've got Dye in there. You've got Wood also involved. And then, just all trying to fight over what is at the moment 17th position is what they're all in the train for. Although realistically it's 18th because I will say Hurd does have a bit more of a margin. There goes a look to the inside, down to the old hairpin. We've seen that move tried, but Charlie Dye was was trying to look for a move past Bridges, but wasn't really fancying it. Faye Noble Evans still just a touch clear of this grouping, so not having to feel about defending. Eric Bridges, who obviously ended the previous race in the gravel trap around this part of the circuit, going through McLean's, which is where they were, and had to be recovered from the race. And yeah, it's just unfortunately sometimes how it goes. No fastest lap this time by the way, so Charters not using the pace for 2 consecutive laps, but the gap for the race lead did come down by 2-3 tenths of a second, so Perry Darling not necessarily out of the woods yet as they head down into the Fogarty S. Faye Noble-Evans closing into the back of the number 25 of Craig Horvath. And there is a look to the inside. Sarah Thompson making the move on the 51. So Stuart Warner now dropping back into 16th position as Sarah Thompson is able to get through into the top 15. So it's a solid recovery at the moment from Sarah Thompson, who obviously had that spin on the first lap going down to the Fogarty S. Managed to stick it in reverse pretty quickly, get the car spun around, and obviously eyes focused on maybe even closing down onto the rear end of the 68 of Martin Mason. There is a look at your race leaders though. Perry Darling leading by 2.1 seconds. But the gap to Wayne Gregory, the gap to Ryan Charters, the gap even to Mike Thompson, it is coming down. Barrington Darcy, since getting past that group, because of the side-by-side with themselves and Vikram Sedera, has kind of wasted a lot of time in that side-by-side, so will not really be able to rejoin this group. It doesn't seem as though there will be the pace in order to do so. With the pace they're running, it'll be 3 laps left to go from this point. That's why I wanted to wait until a lot later in the race to confirm that one to you, because I was saying it was 7 from ages ago and I wasn't really sure on that, so I think it's 6 from that point. Either way, it's definitely 3 from this point as the leader crosses the line. Let's update you with the lap times, because the fastest lap has just come in from Ryan Charters. The two of them, both Ryan Charters and Wayne Gregory, were pretty close on lap times. They're only separated by a tenth and a bit of a second, but they both closed down on the race leader by almost half a second. That happens for another couple of laps, and maybe they'll be knocking at the door. 3 laps though, they need to find that speed now, and it's kind of one of those ones where they can't really fight. If they fight, there's no chance for them winning. But then how do you do that as a racing driver? Go, no, let's not fight, because I can see they don't have all the data that you do in, you know, something like Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3 and such, where you've got that list of information, you've got a race engineer telling you what's happening, you've got the gaps, you've got all the information you could possibly ask for. It's just you in the car and what you can see with your eyes and out the windscreen. And at the moment, unless that gap's clearly coming down, you just never really know. And the fastest first sector's just come in from our race leader, Perry Darling. And it was by 3 tenths of a second, or 2 and a bit tenths of a second faster than Wayne Gregory behind. I get the feeling if I was in the boots of Ryan Charters now, I'm thinking I don't care about the race victory. It's too far down the road with a couple of laps left to go. I'm thinking about taking over second place now. I think, you know, at the moment, the only way that you're really going to get a race victory is if there is a mistake from Perry Darling. This is further down the order. This is the number 36 of Cutler. This one's William Cutler, of course, in the battle for 12th position. Got the 46 of Tom Hale directly ahead as they'll head their way out onto the Starkey Straight as they'll try and find their way through. Lights ablaze as the sun, well, it's not setting, but it's not that far away from it, as the move will come to the outside. The 36 not quite able to work their way through, but Tom Hale's pretty slow going through the Fogarty S, and so it could be the move coming in from William Cutler as they head down the hill into the braking zone of the Melbourne hairpin. Going to go out wide is William Cutler. Tom Hale with the inside line and still hanging on to that position, the blue and white car that now heads the battle for 12th position. Still a look to the inside from the 36. And William Cutler can't quite find the move. Goes out wide into the penultimate corner, into the final corner rather, to try and get a better run onto the start-finish straight for what will be their penultimate lap of the race. I will say, by the way, for the race lead, fastest lap came in from Wayne Gregory by 3 tenths of a second, pulled out 4 tenths on Ryan Charters. Wayne Gregory absolutely flew on the previous lap, but it's just not really going to be enough. They'll have another lap and a bit to deal with as now Mike Thompson sets the fastest first sector. The battle remains for 12th place though. Tom Hale just about hanging on to it. We go down through the Craner curves into the old hairpin. And this is not really where there's the best overtaking opportunity, but I'm pretty sure if you get the run out of the corner, you do get basically one of the better runs around this circuit, which is that run into the Schwantz curve and into McLean's. It doesn't seem as though it's the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit, but you see the most overtakes up here, so clearly it's doing something right. There's Wayne Gregory, the driver in second position in the race, who is closing down on the race lead. It was a 10th in the first sector that they gained. Little lost in the second sector, but I'm pretty sure, based on what I'm seeing here, that gap looks around the 1.2, 1.3 second margin, so might gain an extra 10th in the final sector. But as we head on to the final lap of the race, does seem as though Perry Darling is in the pound seat here to take a victory, and it does seem as though Wayne Gregory might have to settle for a second consecutive second place here at Donington Park. Across the line they go, and down towards turn one. You can see the drying line. Doesn't really matter too much in this. You won't be able to hunt for the wet bits to cool the tyres down. They're not pushing the tyres to that much of a limit. As Mike Thompson, fourth position, set the fastest lap recently. Do you know who's just set the fastest lap of the race? Your race leader, Perry Darling, absolutely flying on the penultimate lap of the race. Fastest first sector, those just coming from Mike Thompson. Once more, absolutely flies in that first sector. The fastest first sector was from, the first sector from Perry Darling was a 25.4. The first sector from Thompson there was a 24.8. And that is why Thompson is knocking right at the door at the rear end of Ryan Charters once again. We're on the final lap of the race, and time is running out in this one. So you're not going to have too many opportunities left to go. It'll be a run down to the Foggy S, a run down to the Melbourne Hairpin, and a run down into Goddard's for Mike Thompson to maybe sneak their way onto the podium and drop Ryan Charters down an extra position, which would be excellent and music to the ears, of course, of the championship leader, Wayne Gregory, who, of course, would see a championship lead grown, I think, over this round, if that was the case, courtesy of a first in the previous race from Ryan Charters, but then what would be a third or a fourth, but then 2 second places for Wayne Gregory. I think it would grow a little bit. If not, it's not really going to change very much. It wouldn't change much from their current positions anyway, because of where Wayne Gregory is. Final lap, though, and the final corner, and of course, as we see our race leader, Perry Darling, head down into that final corner, holds in the middle of the road to navigate some lap traffic. Oh, it's causing a bit of a problem there is the 64 of Hussey. But out through the final turn, it is going to be an excellent victory from Perry Darling. Started this race from 5th position and crosses it as the victor, beating out the championship leader Wayne Gregory, whilst also setting the fastest lap of the race. An excellent end to the weekend in the Woods Food Service Boxster Cup. Perry Darling taking the victory by 1.1 seconds, dealt with some of the pressure late on in the race, despite leading by 2 seconds at one point. It definitely got brought back down again. Wayne Gregory has to settle for second. Ryan Charters does grab the final spot on the podium. Thompson could not find a way past Darren King, Darcy, Grucock, and then, of course, the 72 of Mike Cutler across the line before we get Sedera and Levi to round out the top 10. But what a crazy race. I mean, look, this race, the racing this weekend's been great. I mean, they had to deal with some really, really difficult conditions in the previous race, and they dealt with them brilliantly. In this one, these conditions aren't exactly much easier. Yeah, sure, you've got a better visibility, but you just the track is changing every single lap that you race around in conditions like this. It is really not easy to navigate, especially with the dying light around the Donington Park circuit. A fitting end to a good weekend of racing here at Donington Park. Still waiting for the final few to cross the line. The next one will be Sarah Thompson in that yellow car that obviously went for a spin on lap 1. There she is. Good recovery. Mason will be across the line behind all that. These are all fighting for position. Got the 38 of Eric Bridges, who has just got past Horvath there and up into what is now an 18th position down to the final corner. And there is a look to the inside coming in from Horvath, but Bridges will be able to hang on to that 18th spot. Hurd will cross the line in 17th. Not quite the pace of what they had in the previous race. Faye Noble Evans, I think, don't want to be that guy, but a bit disappointing this race. 4th in the previous race, 20th in this race. I'm sure Faye Noble Evans will know that they that wasn't their best in that one. The final few will cross the line. Lawrence also will. And that will be the 24 drivers across the line. Of course, the one missing in all that was the 44 of Scott Evans. That's why we had 24 drivers in the race. An extra bonus lap has come in for some reason by Ryan Charters. Just fancies not being done with the with Donington Park just yet. Clearly wants a bonus lap. That's why he's come through the foreground a shot. Odd one, but fair enough. I don't know if there's any penalty for that, for doing an extra lap. Obviously, there's an in-lap and then an extra one. Either way, the race is over for the Woods Food Service Boxster Cup. And again, a brilliant one and a brilliant victory from Perry Darling. To have taken by 1.1 seconds, a great drive and a great victory. Championship leader, though, it will be Wayne Gregory there to take over second position in the race. 1.1 seconds behind, second in both the races this weekend, but pulling out, well, I think probably holding basically the same championship lead over Ryan Charters. He finished in third position, but obviously first in the previous race. Mike Thompson in fourth position in this race before we get ourselves to Darren King, who's into the top 5. Barrington Darcy in sixth position. Ben Grucock up to seventh position with Mike Kurtler in eighth. Of course, the 66 of Vikram Sudera will be in ninth position, and then rounding out the top 10 is Anthony Levi to take that 10th position. 10 seconds behind Vikram Sudera, but obviously embroiled in their own fight. Ended up being 7 seconds clear of the driver that crossed the line in 11th place. That driver being the number 55 of Scott Adams in 11th place. Then in 12th, of course, it was Hale in the 46, who was able just about to beat out William Kurtler in the battle for 12th. The two of those, we saw them battling over the last couple of laps, but a fantastic battle between them. Sarah Thompson recovers to 14th position before we get to the 68 of Martin Mason. We saw how tight the fight was in that grouping with Mason. I know the gaps don't really say it, but they were close at various points. Warner in 16th position with Hurd in 17th. Eric Bridges in 18th position with Horvath. Faye Noble-Evans in 20th position before we get to the final page of results, which sees the final 4 drivers, everyone making it to the checkered flag, just a lap down. Of course, the first of those will be the 24 of Sarah Wood, down in 21st position. Then the 96 of Charlie Dye, and unfortunately a lap down both Hussey, coming around the final corner, dropped the lap, and of course the 61 of Nick Lawrence. All finishing the race though, so at least there is that. Unfortunately, the only one to not make the race, of course, was the 44 of Scott Evans. The championship though is not done. Remember, it rolls on to Snetterton, which is coming up in 3 weeks' time on the 6th of October. It's surely going to be a thrilling end to the season. We thank you very much for joining us this weekend, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.